What's up, guys? Just a quickie. Just had the most amazing little Vienna game, 5-minute blitz. My opponent played an absolutely dreadful move on move 2 and paid the price, but I think it's quite a fun game and quite instructive for Vienna players out there. So we've got e4, e5, knight c3, the Vienna game. Now, most commonly you will see knight out here, you'll see knight out here, you might say bishop here, even bishop to there can be played. This is most common, maybe d6, right? But here, black, who's 1241 rated at blitz, plays bishop to e7. Now, the key thing about bishop to e7 is that it's blocking off the queen. Right? Now the queen can't get out into the board, and very often in the Vienna, when you start paying your attentions to this square here, the queen quite often wants to come out and defend. So bishop to c4, again, normal developing move. Now, you know, to his credit, black has shifted a minor piece on the king side. So bishop c4, we're targeting f7. Opponent now again plays the really quiet pawn to d6. Now, what's he trying to do? It's like some kind of weird reverse London setup, but completely wrong. Okay, so now I have a think. Queen h5, and we are threatening queen takes there. And again, black just does something completely stupid. Right? I mean, this guy's from Greece, so it's the middle of the day. It's like 3 p.m. or something in Greece. Right? Knight to f6 does not defend f7. So we take, and king here. And now, this is a situation that I've actually had on a few times in the Vienna. And it looks as though black is all at sea, right? It looks as though you ought to be able to come up with a quick slaughter in this. Yeah, there's a hanging pawn, but we're not too worried about that because you go there, rook's going to come here, and then the queen has to come there, and it's all a bit kind of pointless. So what your instinct says is you really want to go after the king. But actually, I mean, I've lost games from this position. I know I have. Or this kind of position when you get the queen in and the king goes walkabout. So, I play the kind of obvious bishop e6. Now, so the king can't go back here because of the queen. So he has to come out into the board. Out he comes. And now you have questions to answer, right? I'm up 1 pawn. That's all I'm up. Yes, there's another hanging pawn. But what should I be doing now? I guess what we want to be doing is we want to be applying more pressure to the king. So, I mean, we'll see what the analysis says in a bit. Maybe starting to push pawns, but I think in developing the dark squared bishop makes sense. Bringing the knight somehow into the game, or both knights into the game, kind of makes sense. You don't want to get into a position where you're giving check and then he comes back and then queen here and he comes back, and you can end up with a repetition there. Also, the knight is guarding the square to a point. So bishop there, could have knight takes, I don't know. So in the game, I decide to trade bishops. And that's maybe not fantastic, but his dark squared bishop's really bad. His light squared bishop had at least some potential to get into the game. But this forces now the queen to move, right? Having said that, the queen is now on this nice diagonal. But the queen is kind of out of the way of my queen. I have a hanging bishop here. I have a hanging bishop, and I missed it. There you go, that's what happens. Right, the excitement of somehow just when you really feel like you're on top and you should be just, you know, applying the coup de grace to your opponent, you can miss stuff like that. I should have just taken the bishop. Anyway, so king goes back. Right, and now I figure, okay, look, I'm still up a pawn. Opponent's king is on walkabout, okay? What's more, he's got 3 pieces gridlocked, right, on the queen side there. This rook isn't in the game, etc. However, it's not like I'm totally developed either, so he develops his knight. So, you know, I need to bring my dark squared bishop into the game. I should probably castle at some point. Sometimes what you have to do is, instead of just getting all giddy and starting to lash out and throw wild punches, sometimes the right thing to do And chess is very much about, advancing at chess is very much about knowing the right thing to do each time. Sometimes the right thing to do is just consolidate, calm down, chill out, complete your development, get your king safe, basics, basics, basics. So, now it's time for f4, on the principle that my king can castle and get to safety quite soon. Black's king is still in the middle of the board, so when your opponent's king is in the middle of the board and can't castle because he's been on walkabout, then what you want to do is you want to eliminate the central pawns and open up lines. So I'd love it for black to take here and I get to recapture with my bishop, and lo and behold, that's what happens. So now we're kind of looking okay, right? King's still there, but still a lot to do. Rook comes to f8. He's maybe thinking about discovery against my bishop. I bring up my knight to f3. And now I have great options. I can castle either way. Castling short would put my rook onto a completely open file. Castling long, still useful, putting my rook on the same file as the king. Black now has a poke at my queen, but I have a decent resource here. Queen a4 is a fork on the king and knight and forces the knight back to block. It's the only move. And now I decide to castle long, and I'm shortly going to think about pushing my pawns up the board. Okay, so black pushes a6. I think this is a bit slow, but you know, maybe he's got ideas of just pawn storming up here and just seeing what he can do. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, and now we just strike out at the middle. What's the point of this move? Well, with this knight coming back to block the check, a piece that blocks the check automatically pins itself. Okay, so this knight here is pinned. It's iced. It cannot take here. Right, that's not possible. Can't take there. So I'm attacking the knight here, and I'm attacking the pawn. And this is important. You know, when you're doing a pawn break, if you want to eliminate material, if you can advance a pawn into a position where it's forking to other things, you can guarantee that something's going to leave the board. Right? Either black's going to take me, in which case I'll come in probably with a knight and check and also attacking the pin piece, or he doesn't and he moves the knight, in which case I get to capture there, maybe even take off the bishop, you know, lots of things. And then the d pawn can come and follow up. So in the game, black takes, probably not the best idea, because now knight takes e5 with check. Notice the bishop's still hanging, but this comes with check, and this knight here cannot capture because it's still pinned. Right, so what's black got? I mean, this is defended by a pawn only. He could come forward, but then that, and if knight takes, pawn takes, and he's in discovered check again, it's not very nice, right? And the reason it's not very nice is because we're opening up the center. So king now retreats, and I dive in, double his pawns, 3 pawn islands, and I get a spare pawn as well. Knight retreats now, and the important thing to note here is the discovery is on. And here I've got a few options. I noticed I could have played g3. I want to keep the bishop on this diagonal looking at that pawn, right? Which is now actually defended 3 times. Right? But in the end, I decided just to drop the bishop back to g3 rather than pawn forward to g3. Just feels kind of slightly safer. Also means that the bishop is guarding a back rank square, which is no bad thing. You know, whereas here it was guarding my king, which doesn't need guarding. Don't know about this. I mean, black has made a series of poor moves. Okay, we trade off. He captures with the knight, and now it's time to come in with my knight. If he wants to trade off, I'll recapture the queen. And yes, I'm actually up materially only 2 pawns, but look at the difference. Look at the difference in pawn structure on black's side compared to mine. My king is safe as houses there. Yeah, there's open lines, but I'm not worried. You know, I just want to simplify down. I've got a rook in the middle of the board lined up with his king. My other rook can come in. There's 2 completely open files on the board, right? These 2 here. And this is almost unlosable for white, really. And it ends with a blunder. Well, the beginning of the end anyway. So the queen moves away, undefending the rook that's under attack. King comes here. Now, walks into a royal fork. However, at the same time, with the king moving here, there is an attack on the queen. There's a discovered attack by the rook. But I come in anyway with a fork. Now the king has to move. King can't come here, can't stay there, can't go any of these places. What's going to happen? King has to go there. And now, this is one of those really interesting positions. Right, do I take the queen? If I take the queen, rook takes my queen. What have I won? Okay, so you really just have to take your socks off and start counting, right? In the end, I figure that queen takes rook forces king takes, right? Because after queen here, you can see he's in check, and he can't come here because the knight guards that square. So there's actually only one legal move. King has to take, and then I get to capture the queen. So I've won myself a rook with that exchange. This comes with check, and he moves away, and I actually walk into this. I mean, that was a blunder, quite honestly. But then I move there and he takes, and now I'm just going to push the pawn up. So he actually offers me his throat at this point and walks into, he says, come on, finish me off, back rank, mate. But yeah, lots of fun. It's just, if you ever look out for, I mean, I don't know how many times I've faced this. I mean, it's just rubbish. But I think it was the right way to go. Let's have a quick look at the game review, see if we can learn anything from that. So I know I blundered. Oh, well, yeah, maybe. The dogs are having fun. Only one blunder from black, isn't that interesting? Apparently no blunders from me, just one mistake. Hey ho. 88.7, very, very happy with that from a blitz game. Particularly one where you've got kind of so much advantage, it's very easy to screw up in that case. Okay. Bishop e7 is good. Well, I'm kind of surprised at that. That's good. A better d4 straight striking in the centre. Okay, because I guess if pawn takes and queen takes, you're then looking down here, aren't you? That's a thought. Okay, so d4. So I bring out my bishop. He plays d6. Queen h5 is best, right? Sometimes the wayward queen approach is best, guys. Look at this. You know, because I'm threatening, well, it's not mate, but almost. And that's, yeah, clearly a blunder. That's the only good move. King there is forced. Bishop there is best, good. So what I'm looking for here is there a way to finish the bugger off? And I don't know. King there is forced again. See, we talk about forcing moves. Forced moves are even worse, right? When you only leave your opponent one thing to do. Good, pleased about this. Now, look, I'm +5, guys. I'm 1 pawn up, and I'm +5 pawns in reality. Okay, it doesn't like that. Yeah, because I should have taken the bishop. There you go. So that was just a bit silly. But really, from that point on, okay, king here. That's okay. Better move would have been develop the knight. Fair enough, fair play. That's okay. That's inaccurate. Again, it wants me to develop, but okay. Yeah. Whatever. That's fine. Yeah. And then from then on, it's a walk in the park, really. But yeah, interesting one. So good move to look out for. Remember, sometimes the wayward queen is the way to go. You know, like we're saying in chess, it's the thing about knowing what is the appropriate approach given a particular situation. And sometimes it's to go for the throat, and sometimes it's to back the hell off, consolidate, make sure your own defences are solid, and, you know, make sure your king's safe. Maybe it's developed, maybe it's improved pieces. You know, there you go. But what a fascinating game, eh? I mean, in general, just chess. Love it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you later.